Matt Phillips is a music industry executive with 20 years of experience and is the co-founder of the record label and management company Silverback Music. His bands have included Slightly Stupid, The Marleys, and Sublime. Matt has curated and produced successful music festivals, including Closer to the Sun and Cali Vibes Fest in Long Beach. Welcome, Matt.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Raghu Markus. He's the executive director of the Love, Serve, Remember Foundation, and his mind-rolling podcast is part of the Be Here Now network. He has been involved in music and transformational media since the early 1970s. Raghu spent 2 years in India with Neem Karoli Baba and Ram Dass himself. In 1990, he launched Triloka Records and Karuna Music, which quickly established itself as a world leader and has been home to artists like Krishna Das, Jay Udal, and Ram Dass. Welcome, Raghu.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, Isaac. Isaac Sabu is the founder of Biotune, a sound meditation technology and wellness platform. His expertise in sound technology and automation led to the creation of elaborate recording studios, automation systems, and IT infrastructures. After a pivotal moment at Burning Man in 2017, the fusion of technology, sound, and spiritual experiences ignited his vision on a healing mission and ultimately led to the creation of Biotune. Welcome.
Thank you so much.
Give it up for these guys.
Yep.
Let's start with passion. Music and psychedelics, that's why we're here, right? I'd love to hear from the three of you just how has music and psychedelics actually personally affected your lives? Matt, why don't we start with you and then we'll work our way down.
Music for me has been a part of my life. I started my music journey in college, and that's when I started working in the music industry with artists. And always the correlation, I think somebody said it earlier, between psychedelics and music has always been there. And it's like music is better when you're on, psilocybin, cannabis, whatever it is, it enhances the experience. So I've also have suffered from cluster headaches, which are a rare form of headaches that no medicine really helps. So a doctor had told me that if you did some mushroom, which I tried in college recreationally and did here and there, but if you took it medically and took it at the right times, that it could help the headaches. So for me, my journey with psilocybin really started there. And just kind of over the years, merged the two, because as you're on that journey, you kind of discover different things that have helped me in my professional career, and I've added to my professional career. So that's really how I've merged the two.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Raghu?
Interesting thing for me is, as far as music and psychedelics, many people get tremendously enhanced by psychedelics with music at festivals or just Spotify or whatever it may be. But my experience started when I was 17 years old, and I happened to get into a club where John Coltrane was playing. Well, if you don't know who he is, definitely Google him up. He was the most spiritual musician I ever encountered. And he started playing My Favorite Things, which is a famous song from the 50s. And he was playing soprano sax, and I had a complete altered experience without any drugs, nothing. I was completely absorbed into what he created in that moment, and was no longer aware of my body. So that was my first experience of what music's potential was. And then after that, of course, psychedelics came along, and it just validated what psychedelics can do, which is completely allow you to be absorbed into the one, whatever we want to call that thing. So that that validation led me to India, which is a whole other story.
Awesome. Thank you. Isaac?
Psychedelics saved my life. I mean, they helped me to awaken, and music is what really provided all the healing. I was going through the most challenging time in my life after a divorce, and someone introduced me to sound therapy. And I've been in sound, I've been fascinated with sound, acoustics, and electronics, and recreating what I found to be the most healing journey, which was when you listen to music and the back, the hair on the back of your neck rises and you feel like you've just had this out-of-body experience. So I had that as a kid, and I wanted to recreate that for other people. So I mean, I'm a Persian Jew. My parents are like, "What are you doing going into the music industry? You got to make a living." So I pursued the technical aspect of it, reproduction aspect of music. And when I went to, I had no experience with psychedelics. It was very late in my life. And that kind of unlocked everything for me. And in the sound therapy, the 1.5 years to 2 years that I religiously went to sound healing is what unlocked everything. I knew that this was my calling. This was the way that this is what I wanted to do. I wanted to bring this to other people. I wanted to be able to make it accessible so other people that had maybe traumas that they wanted to process, or just they wanted to feel better. They wanted to have a safe place to be able to do it in the comfort of their own home, to be able to not need a facilitator, not to have all those tools. So that became my mission and the driving force and the intention, which then kind of unlocked itself as the path unfolded, because I didn't mean to go on this path. It kind of chose me. It's what I was wired for my whole life, sound and music, and it's just been a beautiful journey of kind of unfolding and discovering.
Awesome. I love that you had to go kind of like in the back door. So your parents were like, we're cool with this. We're going to go technical. And then you found your way here. And they're like, all right, fine. Pretty cool what you're doing. Matt, let's talk a little bit around the recreational right now, right? We're talking, you've been involved with creating festivals, creating experiences. And I know we were talking about something with how cannabis, right? If anybody's been to an event, there's actually cannabis experiences. But now there seems to be a trend that's actually going to psilocybin experiences, despite the fact that, well, it's not really legal yet, and yet they're being created. Can you just talk about this emerging trend that you're seeing?
For sure. Well, cannabis is a big part of a lot of the music that I work with. It's very cannabis forward. So even 10 years ago, we weren't selling cannabis products. We weren't branding cannabis products. It was too risky at the time. I mean, it's almost like you would go to a concert to go see a band that's singing about legalization or their experience with cannabis, and security guard would kick you out of the venue for smoking a joint, or so fast forward to now, I feel like psilocybin is in that place where it's not legal, but it is. I mean, it is legal, but it's not quite. When you're working with corporate entities and city permits, you can't always be that out there with it. So more how we are creating a space for it is through experience, and whether that's through the video screens, creating the experience there, finding places in a venue that's going to be comfortable, a safe place to enjoy your whatever path you're on. And we really have played into that because, and again, it goes back to like music is more enjoyable when on your journey, and we try to create those spaces there for that. I mean, it helps us. It's all about experience. Anybody can go throw a stage up in a field or a parking lot and throw a festival. But for us, it's always about creating that experience that people are just going to have the time of their lives, feel safe, feel like they can be free and, be safe, but do what they want to do.
Love that. And we're going to talk a little bit more about how you actually create a safe space to explore in a group setting. But before that, I want to go from, let's say, recreation into sound healing now. Isaac, you also started your journey a little bit more in the recreational land, right? And
Absolutely.
then found your way into sound healing. Can you just talk to us about what inspired this shift? And how do you see sound healing contributing to the well-being of individuals?
Like I said, I was at Burning Man. It was unexpected. I was in the middle of the playa, and the only shade structure that we found was this piece of art. And we went inside, and this guy had a beautiful jar, and he gave me a couple of mushrooms, and I started taking it. And on the way back, it was we go to my tent, and my roommate is like, "This is the last night. I have an MDMA, so why don't you participate?" So, not knowing what that's going to unveil, it kind of unlocked everything for me. And the journey for me was to be able to bring a safe space. I mean, I created festivals for 3 years. And in doing so, it was always about a healing journey. And what do we need to be able to provide to bring ceremony, sacredness, and also the safety and security. So as people are going through these experiences, they can be able to have maybe a guide, maybe like Zendo project is one of those projects that provides a safe space. It's an amazing way to be able to guide people, or if they're having a bad trip, to be able to provide the assistance. Just like you do any ceremony, is holding the space and is having people that are responsible that you can rely on to know that you're safe in being able to unfold any of the emotions that are going through. So what you're doing, Matt, and creating these safe spaces is really incredible. I think that as we have gathered, people go through these transformative experiences, and having this safe space and having a container and having also someone there just in case they do have a bad trip. How do you deal with that? What happens? Like, what are the processes? Is an amazing part of these recreational spaces.
Appreciate that.
Very well
We should call
said.
it Wavy Gravy in honor of Wavy Gravy from Wichita.
We should have a wavy gravy zone, huh?
So from sound healing, we then merge into spiritual exploration, right? And oftentimes, just like Torkin was saying, we can be at a festival in a recreational setting having a spiritual experience. But I want to talk specifically around how now there's music actually being made to help this spiritual exploration. And I know you are working with actually putting Ram Dass meditations into music tracks. Can you talk about how those tracks can open up a spiritual experience for people?
Yeah, actually, I'd like to address what everybody just heard from Ram Dass before that. The reality that he's speaking to and that he spoke to, especially in the latter part of his life around psychedelics, was simply the attachment or even addiction to the experience. He did a gazillion trips as Richard Alpert, and then he kept coming down, and he couldn't understand that it couldn't be sustained. He went to India to find a map of consciousness that he could follow to not come down. And then he met Neem Karoli Baba, as he said. And he also said, I never would have been able to completely understand who that being was without psychedelics. I mean, not that he never could. There were people that came there that did understand without taking psychedelics, although most of us had. But what he's speaking to is really the way in the trap that can happen with anything, and obviously with psychedelic, it's a powerful trap of wanting to continue to be validated, that experience of interconnectivity, of ineffable experience. That's what he's speaking to, not so much about. At that point, of course, he did not need to take psychedelics. He did. One time I said to him, we were talking about trust, which is a big deal related to the true spiritual reality that's in all of us. It starts with trust. So I was telling him in a retreat, when I met you and you created this space where I felt this unconditional compassion and love. I trusted you like I had not trusted anybody else in my life like that. And then I said, what was your first trust? And he looked at me in the audience and he went, mushrooms. So it was obviously a major part of his life. But he did get to a point where he really did, the edict, which is the foundation: love everyone, serve everyone, remember the divine.
I love the balance that he was talking about, right? It's like it can show us these expanded states and our connectedness, and yet don't get lost in the sauce, is basically what I'm hearing, right? Like, I think we know the people that have had just hundreds and hundreds of ayahuasca journeys, and they continue and they haven't come down from the last 80. So you're just like, okay, what did you learn in those ones? And I think we're all on our own journey, right? And discovering what is the balance for us, and how do one of the questions later for you is just how do we bring spirituality into a daily life, right? But I do want to talk a little bit before we get into that, into just how exactly we create safe spaces, right? You guys touched on it a little bit, but would love Isaac and Matt to talk a little bit about, like, what does that actually look like, practically speaking, for people to safely have an expanded experience in group settings? What's some good protocols, things to have around? How do we make it comfy for a trip?
I will say that I failed a lot. And at the beginning, it was very much about entertainment. And I realized that I'm not here for entertainment. I'm here to create healing, therapeutic spaces. And I was just curious, how do I refine this process? How do I make it deeper? How do I refine my heart and my intentions and my focus so I can translate that to the space? And that's what it was. It was learning a lot to refine grounding, safety, making people drop into the experience, helping them to kind of the set and setting. I've spent quite a bit of time it's become a ritual for me. Every journey that I've had in nature, I gather something, and that becomes part of the space, then, because it carries the energy of what I had gone through, and creating a sacredness around these spaces, dim lightings. But the most important, it can look gorgeous. It's about your intentions, your heart, the safety, security, helping people to feel trusted. It's a slow process. You cannot rush this. I see a lot of journeys now that are one day, go in, boom, come out, and this is not it's not a magic pill that you swallow and you come out and you're going to be healed. You got to drop into it, and dropping in takes some time, and then processing takes some time. So slowing everything down and taking time to be able to go into this journey. And we all know about epigenetics. It takes a different condition, different set and settings to be able to manifest different outcomes. So it's really important to be able to step outside of your patterns and conditions, number one. Number two is taking the space to be able to process what has transpired. So I believe in expanded time and space where you have at least a weekend to a week to be able to process, and you're not going back into your environment right away, that you're held, that you have the tools to be able to take those things back into your life. And that's what leads to a transformative experience. And for me, it's based on doing it so much and holding the space until I have refined my own process. And I just encourage others to take their own, go into it, experiment with your friends, refine your process, learn your ways, learn from others, but really bring the wisdom is when it comes out of you.
And from a recreational, let's just say it, like from like a party sense.
Yeah.
Like, what does the vibe look like when you are wanting to?
Definitely. Yeah. We definitely come from more the recreational and entertainment side of it. And I also use my own personal journeys, because a lot of times when I do go on my journey. I love to go see live music. And so I try to apply that to events we're throwing. And it can be anywhere from, content in the video screens, the lights, creating zones like with different visuals, lighting, setting, stuff like that. I mean, our event in Mexico, it's a resort takeover. So we just find different areas of the resort. Like one area is a yoga studio, and we just make that kind of like somebody who's more on the spiritual journey. We make that more their spot. But we also have to appeal to people who aren't necessarily down that path. They might be on other paths. So it's really finding that happy medium. I feel like from the entertainment side, if it's quality and thought out, it's going to feel good to everyone. And people are there for a certain style of music. So you kind of know exactly what they want. But I definitely just use my own personal journey to try to create what I would want to see.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I love what you were saying also about intention. I mean, we can be intentional even in recreational settings, right? Like I love to my intention is to feel just absolute joy and connect with everybody on the dance floor. And a friend of mine said to me, she's like, my intention for this weekend is to make love to the beat. I was like, hell yeah, girl. I love that. I'm going to tell everybody about it. So, yeah, let's go back a little bit now to the spirit. I mean, it's all connected, right? But Raghu, Ram Dass often spoke about the philosophy of heartfulness. How does music facilitate heart-opening experiences? And then how do we actually integrate that into our daily life?
Yes, that's easy. I mean, it is about intention. You're just talking about intention. Once you have that ineffable experience, that experience of connecting the way you can connect on a psychedelic, or in my case with Coltrane, and then music was the biggest thing in my life. I ended up having a record an indie label that, that meant everything, being able to produce music that was transformational, most especially. So, it really boils down to one simple thing. If the music, the psychedelic, leads you with intention to want to, I want to cultivate that, and I realize it's not about the experience, it's about the deeper part of connecting with our true nature. I mean, that's the reality that we all have, which you call spirituality. And once that happens, there's so many different ways to pick that up. Even, music, chanting, kirtan is a huge thing across this country. I mean, it's unbelievable. There's many different ways to express that, to be able to dig deeper in. That doesn't mean you cut everything else out. Psychedelics have a place. Microdosing has a place. I know it myself. Actually, let me read. I did bring something to read of Ram Dass that really says what we're all hoping to get to. When you see the beloved all around you, everyone is family and everywhere is love. When I allow myself to see the beauty of another being and see the inherent beauty of soul manifesting itself, I feel the quality of love in that being's presence. It doesn't matter what we're doing. We could be talking about our cats because we happen to be picking out cat food in the supermarket. Or we could simply be passing each other on the sidewalk. When you are being loved, you extend an environment outward that allows others to act in different, more loving, more peaceful ways than they are used to behaving. Not only does it let them be more loving, but it also encourages them to be so. So all of this stuff, psychedelics, music, I actually put music in another category because it is so part of who, our molecules, like love is. I mean, that is so instantaneous when you are moved by a piece of music. You are no longer thinking about me. You've gone out into the larger we through music. But whatever the methodology is, it's got to end up in what Ram Dass is talking about, which is family.
It sounds to me also that heartfulness could be another thing that we can add to our integration tool belt, because we think of, usually integration after an experience is like, and now I'm going to journal and I'm going to do breath work and I'm going to do all these things. But heartfulness sounds like also like what you were saying earlier about compassion, and how do you bring kindness to every experience that you have in your daily life? Like what a wonderful way to transform your life pretty quickly when you're kind to the world is kind back to you. It's pretty simple.
Yeah, you stop thinking only about yourself, period.
Yeah.
And that's, we have a hard time with that. Yeah. We are very committed to our stories and who we think we are.
Yeah. I'd love to transition a little bit over to the science, actually. We're talking about the spiritual, we got the recreational, but I'd love to hear a little bit about the science of sound technology and how it actually is being used in, let's say, therapeutic settings. Isaac?
Science has to be, first of all, mated with the spirit. Second of all, it's been, my journey when I started, I just wanted to know what really works. I was curious. I traveled for about 2 years exploring and did this just work for me? Is it going to work for others? And seeing the experiences that people had and the different results, one person falling asleep, one person having an emotional reaction, what leads to them having these different experiences, and what's behind the frequencies and what's behind the music itself. And then having a way to be able to validate and verify that. And I started on the energetic aspect of things with a tool called BioWell, where we measured the energetic imprint, where someone was holding. And now we use brainwave mapping and EEG and HRV. HRV is heart rate variability. Basically, two metrics. One is what's happening with your nervous system and what is your state of consciousness. And we want to know, are you able to go down into the desired states? And have we been able to effectively do that? And if so, then we can be able to make sure that it repeats the same process for other people that are going through the journey. So it's been a journey of testing and getting feedback, and also seeing the results, and also getting the technical feedback, what's really happening with the nervous system and the brainwave states.
I'd like, before we open it up to Q&A, I'd love for the three of you to talk about your organizations, your companies, what you've got coming up. Matt, why don't we start with you? Anything exciting we can go and have fun at?
So for us, we're constantly working on events, records, new music, something local. We have Slightly Stupid coming to Santa Barbara Bowl. We have Close to the Sun, the music festival in Mexico, which is probably the hands down the best experience that I've ever been a part of. It's a vacation music festival all in one, music from noon till 4 a.m., safe places everywhere. Working on a new Cali Vibes festival, which is in Long Beach, a little bigger festival, but still a great one. Just constantly working on that and new music.
Amazing. Raghu?
I should have Mangala come up and shout out in my ear, but we have a retreat that we're running in Boone, North Carolina, in the Blue Ridge Mountains, with Gone Beyond's David Block, who did an incredible mashup. We were talking about the music that we do with all of these different people who are involved with psychedelic music. And David, Ram Dass, he did a score to Ram Dass reading from the third Zen patriarch of China. We just put that out at the end of the fall last year. And so he's going to be there, and we're going to be doing that. And we just continue. Justin Beretta, who started, really, a glitch mob, who really started the synthesis of Ram Dass taking from his talks, not just meditations, actually, just him talking about this, that, or the other. He started it, and what he did start with was a meditation that Ram Dass did, that he put score to. that is just launched everything that we're doing with a label called Soul Land Records, which is Ram Dass's coin for spiritual music. So yeah, that's been a phenomenal thing. There's a QR postcard over there, Ram Dass fractal picture that you can just take a picture and there it is. Where were you when we needed you there? And it'll take you to all sorts of different media and books and movies and yeah.
Thank you so much. Let's hear about Biotune.
So my intention is to be able to provide all the tools and the developments that we've had for other brands. There's at-home ketamine therapy. So for those companies that are looking to be able to enhance their offerings through a music program, therapeutic music program backed with science and also technology, and other brands that are creating, providing these solutions, providing these medicines to be able to create safe spaces and safe experiences to go deep and be able to have these transformative experiences. We have a booth back there, and we're going to be having an experience once the music shuts down at 10 o'clock. We invite everyone to come and see us. I'll be hanging out in the back. And also the therapeutic music program and protocol that we've developed, I can go into more depth of how we create specific music for psilocybin journeys and how it's been tested and how those translate to ketamine journeys. So I'm happy to explore and discover with you. Just come see me afterwards in the back. Thank you so much.
Amazing. Yes, give it a round of applause for our panelists. We have some time for Q&A. Anybody feeling brave? Have a question? Thank you. Yes, excellent. I agree. Anyone else?
I wonder if each of you might be able to give some sort of word, coherent thought, or hope for future of music, maybe the evolution of where music can possibly go.
Feeling.
I agree too. And music's art, and despite all the AI stuff, like art's always going to win and feeling's always going to win. So
when I think about the term recreational and I think about sort of like the history that psychedelics have played behind the scenes, you take Jimi Hendrix and you give him LSD and he gives us, smoke on the water. And then you take Steve Jobs and give him LSD and he gives us a multi-trillion-dollar conglomerate, sort of tech giant, or like the iPhone. Same chemical, two very different people, two very different cultural and generational impacts. Psychedelics are older than all of us. If you're talking about the fungus that grows out of the ground, and music is the first sort of natural human psychedelic, the human voice, the drum, the things that we use to change ourselves. And we think about these things in the current context of like a record label or a legal or illegal plant. But like, I want to be in conversation with people who acknowledge that both of these things are older than any of us and will probably outlive all of us, and how we can make space for that and think about it in those terms as well.
Well said. He's got us stumped.
Yeah. Well said.
And I'm curious, Raghu, when it comes to Ram Dass was alive not that long ago. He passed a few years ago. How has that changed things for the awareness of Ram Dass, and where are things going with carrying on his teachings throughout the future?
We had no idea what was going to happen. I mean, we were planning whatever while he was still alive. The only thing he said was just make sure that this information and teachings get out to the next generation by whatever platforms they want to receive it, smartphone apps, whatever. Now we're dealing with AI, and that's a much bigger question. When he died, more people seemed to come and discover him and psilocybin, because those things happen. He died around when everything was blowing up, right? This is 5 years ago. It's pretty interesting to me, which is the same thing that happened to me. We were major league into psychedelics. Richard Alpert and Tim Leary were the icons of it, and we just were, super, super happy that this was going on. And fast forward, I see this every day. It's amazing, People are just discovering it. And the bottom line is, I believe it's just trust. Back to that word. He was honest about his bullshit and rare in that way. and used it to help other people leverage out of the kind of, self-interest that we are in on a day-to-day basis. So, he was a great teacher that way, and people are discovering him, and it's beyond our ken, beyond our mind as to how this is all happening. And honestly, the man in the blanket, Neem Karoli Baba, who Ram Dass met, has, through many different means, one of them being music as chant in America. Krishna Das, who maybe some of you know, he has a huge following, absolutely huge. Some of it's because the chord changes that he uses for the chants are Western, and we can identify with them. They're easy to fall into, and that's opens up a whole door. It has opened up a whole door. So yeah, music.
I was curious if you guys have had experience or want to speak to kind of the multidimensionality that you can access either through psychedelics, meditation, or sound healing. Is that something you guys feel guided to speak about?
What do you mean by multidimensionality? Dimensionality.
The psychotropics, whether it's you're accessing it from inside. And so there's these different realities that people get to connect to. And I've obviously had my own experience, but I'm curious what you guys might want to speak to around it.
My experience of anything like that, through whatever medium, psychedelics, meditation, music, whatever, I get below all of the different realms that we are normally in, or that we go project ourselves into, and get below all of it into a place where there isn't that duality going on. That's the essence of what can happen in my mind.
The mind is a marvelous thing, and it just takes some time for us to be able to drop into these altered states, and that can happen through silence, silent meditation, or any other forms of meditation, breath work, psychedelics. And when we can be able to shift our consciousness from tuning into our surroundings and vigilance about what's happening to diving into really the other realms of consciousness, is when we can access that space. And that's accessible through multiple different technologies. So it really is a discovery for each person to find out what are the methodologies that work best for them. One person, it might be sound. One person, it might be breath. So it's really a self-exploration. One can be silence. For the majority of my time, I had difficulty meditating. It took me 5 years to sit 1 minute in meditation. And so movement meditation was the tool for me until it turned into music and then silence. So it really is a progression and is an exploration, which I invite everyone to go on.
I'm looking for some Spotify recommendations, like some deep cuts for some psychedelic artists. Who would you recommend?
John Hopkins, music for psychedelic therapy, period. And it's obviously subjective because Ram Dass is one cut called Sit Around the Fire. It's phenomenal.
I concur. That's a track that we utilize in a lot of our ceremonies and psychedelic journeys that has been a cornerstone to a lot of the programs that we've put together. But we have specifically curated programs for psilocybin and ketamine journeys in different lengths, mini doses and heroic doses, and ketamine 60 to 90-minute journeys that are science-backed and tested and verified. So come and see me in the back. We'll provide you a link to our SoundCloud, and you're happy to go and explore on your own.
On the more commercial side of things, it's not on Spotify. It's only on SoundCloud. It's the band Krungbin put out a mixtape in 2020 called Strictly Roots. It's unbelievable.
What's the genre?
Krungbin?
Yeah.
Krungbin. The genre is anywhere from African soul to funk to reggae. It's pretty good 2-hour mixtape.
We can start actually. Why don't we go down the line now and talk about how people can stay in touch with all of us? Where are the links? How can people reach out? Matt, why don't we start with you?
Silverbackmusic.net website. All the social media sites are Silverback Music. Everything's connected to that.
As I said before, we've got a table there with a bunch of books you can take a look at around Ram Dass. And there's a lovely little postcard with a QR code. You just hit that and introduce you to the whole realm of ramdass.org and BeHereNowNetwork.com.
And I'm on socials. I'm as Vibe Creator, and then my company is Biotune Wellness. You can find me there, but I'll be in the back. Come and chat and get to know me.
I'm at Life with Kat Walsh on all socials, Kat with a K. Trip on This podcast is season 4 will be out. It was supposed to be May, probably looking more like June. I've partnered with Orm Retreats. We have a women's psilocybin retreat. That's all I got for you guys. Thank you so much. We're about to turn this party up into a whole nother experience. Let's one more round of applause for our panelists.